You can pretty much get info on how to brew your own beer, and you can go to a homebrew store, or you can order online all the ingredients. And if your wife lets you, you can do that inside, or you go out to the garage and do it, or in the basement. Often I get asked about, how to brew and how to brew your own beer and home brewing, and there's so many ways to brew different beers. You can actually get a little more creative at home when you're brewing beer. Creativity started in home brewing and led to larger scale breweries. If you're really interested in becoming a brewer, today it's a lot easier to learn because there are so many different resources. In the old days you had to, back 30 years ago, 40 years ago, homebrew clubs were really prevalent where people got together and talked about how they brew their beers, and they would have competitions, and that slowed up quite a bit because of how many craft beers that were created and breweries that were created, and the need to be able to brew at home because you wanted the different varieties. Today you can brew at home, you can learn to brew at home from others, or you can really just go online and learn. And I would say the funnest thing is to try to talk a small brewer into letting you into his brewery and say, listen, I'll be free labor to brew. We trained a lot of brewers that way. Spent a lot of time bringing home brewers into our brewery and get their insights about beers that they'd tried at home that we might try on the brewery, and we would listen to them about what they wanted in beer. And the culture of beer and people that supported different breweries really started with home brewers and then evolved from there. They used to call them beer geeks and back in the day, and now I think there's this widespread knowledge about how you brew beer and access to breweries, and it's really exciting today because it's really matured to a level of where consumers know as much or more than different people within the industry do about beers, and they know what they're tasting and they know what they like. So go meet some of these home brewers at the homebrew clubs and start asking questions. I think it's very difficult to be consistent in home brewing with beer because of the changing of the environment you're brewing in, and what you might get for ingredients and what might be available. You get kicked out of the kitchen, you may end up in the garage. The garage might need to be there for the car in the wintertime. You end up in the basement. A lot of times you're using bottles that were used before to package, and there's just more chance for contaminants and error in home brewing than there is in a craft brewery or a brew pub. I think consistency in beer is about getting very similar ingredients, brewed in the same way every time, keeping the brewery very clean, making sure there are no contaminants in the brewery, and developing a degree of consistency in brewing will give you that final product. I'm really the sales and marketing in the Shipyard family, and I defer to my brewers to make sure our beers are consistent and what hops they want to buy and what malts they want to use. But I've been fortunate enough to visit the hop farms and the barley fields and met our maltsters over the years. So it's fun to get close to the people that produce the raw ingredients. That's one of the major things I think in any beer is the quality of those ingredients, and then it becomes a consistently executed brewing process to give that same beer every time. Less reasons to homebrew today than there was 30 years ago because there's so many good beers out there. And in the early days, a lot of people brewed at home because they couldn't find what they wanted in the store. If you want to do it for fun, you could go online and buy a homebrew kit. There's the homebrew clubs, every state has them, where you can go to those nights out and meet other brewers and maybe go to their house and brew with them. But I get asked a lot, should I homebrew or should I just go buy beer? I would say just go buy beer.